2022 in general has been pretty crazy. And, we're going to talk about FOMO and a lot of investor psychology throughout the show. And I feel like that's really in play this week and today in particular, because we had a very strong day in the market. So we're getting pulled back in.
It's very tempting.
It's very tempting, right?
Hopefully all my mistakes can maybe be a cautionary tale for all of you.
Well, we all make those mistakes, right? I feel like you can't be a good trader or a great trader without first making those mistakes. It's impossible. It's impossible. Our brains aren't wired to be perfect. We're wired to learn and grow, right?
Well, hopefully.
No, we know that you are. We're in this together, and the market has definitely presented a lot of twists and turns throughout this year in particular. But I guess my concern is this going to be just another Lucy with the football moment, and as soon as we get reeled in again, are we just going to whiff and roll back over? So I don't know. What are your thoughts on how the market's been like this year?
No, I mean, it kind of just feels like how the rest of everything this year has felt. It's just like there's ebbs and flows, there's ups and downs, there's triumphs, there's drama. But yeah, it's been really interesting to see, particularly after the Fed announcement, just kind of how things have been playing out and how things are starting to come back. And, really, watching the great team on IBD Live, trying to it just seems like there's a real disconnect into what the market is saying and the sentiment, because it feels like it hasn't really caught up yet, or maybe that delusion. I feel like Joe Fahmy referenced this, the delusional part is still out there, and I'm extremely delusional. So I think it's just been really interesting, because it does feel like maybe it's starting to catch up, but maybe not.
Yeah, we'll have to see. And I think the best antidote to that is to take things day by day, to not get it so ingrained in your mind that this is the scenario that must play out because I'm getting all of these indicators or viewpoints or this and that. Because, towards the beginning of this week or even late last week, we were thinking, okay, it's looking more likely, like we're in for a third leg down. We could be going down 20%. And now here we are.
About that third leg. We're waiting for that to drop.
Yeah, we're waiting. It's a little bit of an uneven leg at this point, starting to see some momentum in the other direction. But again, the jury is still out. But we're going to talk more about FOMO in just a little bit. But first, I want to get a little bit of the fun side in here. So Alexis, what would you say is your favorite thing to do in LA?
Well, my favorite thing to do is just be outside and eat, really. I mean, I'm a simple
girl
woman.
After my own heart.
Pleasures. We have many great restaurants here. So yes, the one good thing about living in California is the at least consistency of the weather, at least. So yeah, I think really like hiking and trying different restaurants, different things.
Yeah, there's lots of good spots. And since I no longer live there anymore, there's a lot of places that I wasn't able to get to before I left that I still want to explore. But there's a lot of great spots all around. I love anything that has a nice ambiance or view, good rooftop view. So yeah.
Yes, and Arusha will always make fun of me because I like to find places that have natural wine on their list. That's kind of my little vice, I guess, the thing I'm particular about. So, which I hear I get crap from Arusha, and shout out to Mike Webster, he used to make fun of me to that extent.
Well, they shouldn't make fun. I think they're just jealous that you're so
We're trying to spread the word, but yeah, IBD. We love to talk about wine.
We do. There's a little. I mean, well, if you're in California, it is wine country there, so it's only natural to talk about that. So yeah, there is a group, and you've given me a bottle or two of natural wine to try, and
Yes,
your
you,
taste I
Dave
can confirm.
Chung, Hatman Dave, also very much interested in that. So yeah, it's a fun group to talk about.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess then a good segue is what is your favorite wine varietal?
Ooh, I've really been into like the lighter reds. I really like the field blends. I've really been into like the Italian grapes. I'm not going to try to pronounce them because I'll butcher it. But yeah, the Italian reds right now I've been really into.
Oh, yeah. I don't have a particular just go to have to have it other than I would say if I'm looking for something just like really easy to drink, just a good rosé is,
well, now's the season for that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's a season for that right now. So I will say that. But I'm pretty much down to try anything except if it's too sweet. I'm not into anything that's like too sweet. I need to
I'm the
dessert
same.
wine.
I don't like it too sweet. A little juicy, yes. Too
Yeah.
sweet, no.
Exactly. I love it. Okay. And for those of you, maybe this is your first Stocktails, I like sometimes getting the audience to have sort of that fly on the wall. If I'm having a happy hour with a colleague, this is kind of an inside look at that. We talk about the market. We talk about some fun things as well. But let's get back to some education too. So we really want to talk about FOMO, and that's the fear of missing out. I feel like that's one of the toughest things that all traders deal with, whether you are new to investing or you've been at it forever. I mean, Charles Harris, portfolio manager at O'Neill Global Advisors, can attest to that. He's spoken at length with us about that this year. Maybe not necessarily FOMO, but holding something longer than he should have, or we should have. We've all been there, failing to cut losses. But your background as an athlete has helped you, or is helping you. It's for all of us, right? It's an ongoing
trying
process
to adjust.
It's an ongoing process, right? But has helped you with that mental aspect of trading. So tell us about your awesome career as a team member at the University of Texas, playing softball, four-year starter, might I add. What an accomplishment.
It's really going to date me. Thousands. That's when we got to the World Series a couple times. And yeah, I think that whole experience, because you do have to really commit, right? And I think for anything that you do, any hobby, any skill that you're trying to learn, I think sometimes it's easy to look at someone else doing it and not understand the hard work that goes into it. But I mean, repetition truly is the foundation of all of it. And it's really hard. And especially I think about how the market has just kind of been really testing us this year. It's really easy to kind of just tune out and not come into it day and day, like renewing that. And it is that repetition, getting the system, the process, committing to that and keeping focus on that. And, everything else, we've heard, all these great traders talk about this, like the news, the headlines, the fluctuations, that's all noise. And so I think really for me, I'm trying to apply, like getting into that flow, trying to really just apply that to my trading, because I am a newer trader. So yeah, I think it's been really interesting to kind of try to apply those, all those great sports cliches that we hear about.
But I honestly think it gives you a really big edge. Like, for one, kind of along what you were saying, if you're just so focused on a loss or a mistake that you
or
made,
an outcome, right?
Yeah, exactly. You have to be able to shake that off and focus on the here and the now and what you're going to do next, right?
Right. And I think it's, you here's another great cliche, like, yeah, you really learn how to deal with your failures. And I've had a few good ones in the market over the last year. But yeah, it's really just, you can't let that throw you off your game. And you really need to take the time to say, hey, okay, what happened here? Don't beat yourself up over it, but what can I learn from this? What can I do better next time? And, I think the key word is, how do I adjust? I think that's really been kind of the thing I've been really kind of meditating and focusing on. As we're in this bear market, it's the perfect time to kind of analyze your style and all your past trades and get ready for when the market eventually turns.
Exactly. Yeah. To study your past trades, make those little adjustments or tweaks. I mean, I know UT had so many resources, I'm sure, at your disposal for all of the best training and this and that. So what was that like when you were there, reviewing tape, working with specialists, swing coaches, or, that kind of thing? I just love to pick your brain about that a little bit.
Yeah, no, and you're right. We had amazing resources all the way. And that's kind of how I feel like here at IBD, I get to learn with some of the best and just really soak it all in. And yeah, it's, again, I think sometimes people have this very glamorized view of how things are because, you see the games on TV, or you remember people when they succeed, but you don't understand all the years and work and sweat and tears that build up to that particular moment. And yeah, I mean, it was, our day started at 6 o'clock in the morning. We were in the gym by then. We didn't finish our day till like 9 o'clock, because that's when our study hall ended. But, we had practice every day. We had strength training. We had, doing the same exercises, just things that would get tedious, but when things were on the line, in that championship game, it would come down to like the one thing that you probably didn't practice. So I think learning from that, of just not being afraid to kind of embrace kind of, I guess, the pain of just the repetition, and also just embracing the downturns. That's part of the process. And I know it took me a couple of years to realize when I was at Texas, like, yeah, I do have so many resources here. I need to take advantage of them. And I think that's kind of how I've been feeling here at IBD. I've been here a couple of years now, and it's like, oh yeah, like, why be shy about, calling you up or asking somebody else about a certain trade and getting their feedback. So yeah, it's been really interesting to kind of notice that.
Yeah, it's a great community, and it's so cool because people do have slightly different perspectives on the market or trading styles, but I feel like I picked up a little bit from everyone, and then you can kind of make it your own from there. So you have that guidance, but at the same time knowing what your strengths are, I feel like is something that I've had to come to realize. It's not enough to know what my colleagues view as a buy on IBD Live or in our internal discussions for leaderboard or swing trader, and even know exactly where they want to take profits and to cut it. I can't just copy that, because at the end of the day, when you buy a stock that pulls back and you start sweating and the market's coming under pressure, you have to know what you are going to do. No one else can make those decisions for you.
No, absolutely. And I would say not even just your strengths, but I feel like just the last couple of trades that I've made, again, I'm newer to this, really kind of have helped expose my weaknesses too, and things that I really need to address. Because, right, I think sometimes it's easier to be like, oh, you don't want to have to practice the things you're bad at, right? Like it's really hard to get the motivation to do that. But yeah, I do think, I am extremely competitive with myself, and I think understanding that and noticing how that plays into me holding on to a stock maybe for way too long, you know, and as you said, like, we have such a great community here, with the IBD community, and reaching out to other people, seeing what other people are saying has helped so much.
Yeah.
And taking the nuggets that are useful to you has been so helpful.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I mean, I would say that you are far from alone. We've all been there. You have to burn your hand on the stove to learn the lesson, because so the thing with FOMO is if you're holding on to something longer than you should have, it's because you think it's going to go up. Maybe you didn't sell when you should have, so the thought is, well, I can't sell now because I should have sold when I was down 7 to 8%. And I have all of these fundamental reasons why I believe in whatever it is I'm holding. So there's no way that it can go down further. So yeah, it's never fun to make those mistakes, but it makes you a better trader. And we all have done it. And there's so many who are right alongside you, and maybe you're out there watching this right now and you're still holding something and you're down 20, 30, 40, 50%, and maybe we are at a bottom now, but there are things that you can do to, well, it's a lesson to learn for next time. And if you're currently in that situation, and the stock continues to head down, take just a little bit off at a time. That's the other thing, Alexis. Like, selling is not an all or nothing proposition. You don't have to buy all at once and sell all at once. You can kind of be in flow.
It's incremental, right? You just want to see progress. And as you said, and I would highly recommend for people watching this, looking at Charles Harris's trading journey video, because his honesty and the way he talked about some of his mistakes and how he learned, I mean, it really made me feel so much better. And it was just so educational and informative. And so I would highly recommend that. I also liked a little tidbit in there about how Bill had taken him out to soup plantation when he offered him the PM job. I mean, you get these like little great Bill stories in between all of his analysis, but it does feel better to know that, yes, you aren't alone out there and making these mistakes, and you have to start somewhere. And definitely am learning that. Yeah.
And I think the other edge that you have as an athlete, and I did not play softball beyond like what coach pitch or whatever, way back when, but my husband, he was a collegiate baseball player. And so I went to a lot of games in high school, in college, watching him, and I have watched a lot of baseball since, of course, go Astros. That's probably a controversial statement right there, but it's hometown. I have to say that, right?
Especially with the Dodger people out there.
Had to, but no, I'm just a casual fan. But anyway, I think having the ability to cope with, a losing streak, or, your batting average, right? As traders, this game can feel kind of overwhelming if you have losses, but you only need, 1 out of 5 positive trades to still be in the positive category. So having the, previous feelings of knowing what it feels like to strike out, but it's okay, and then hit a single, double, triple, or home run. I feel like
you think about being in a slump, which absolutely sucks. I'm sure a lot of people, not just in sports. There's just areas in life where it just nothing's working out, right? No matter what you do. And, especially when it comes to the stock market, it's so easy to let a couple of mistakes or errors or maybe whiffs snowball into bigger things. And I think, when I look back at my playing days and, when I was really struggling, that's too, when you start getting advice from everywhere, and that pressure to just do more when that's probably the exact time when you should just be scaling back and getting back to basics. And I can see how that would apply to, the trading psychology, because, you take a big loss, as I did in some of, a couple of these trades that I did earlier last year. In your mind, you're like, oh no, like I have to do something. I have to do something now, or stay in this because I've got to regain this. And you just keep compounding those errors. And I think you go back to, I'm doing my reading, my homework now, as we're doing, you go back to the rules, and it's like, okay, I screwed up. I should have sold. I should have listened to Bill. Should have sold at this point. I took the loss. Let's move on and adjust. But yeah, absolutely. I think, the way to get out of those slumps is really just taking that step back, recommitting yourself to the basics. I think that's really kind of one of the things that's been at the top of my mind.
Yeah, exactly. And so let's talk about some trades specifically, so that way we can help the audience learn.
Here's the fun part. All my horrible mistakes.
No, we've all made them. Yours just are a little more recent than mine. That is all. Right. But I have them too. And in the spirit of Charles Harris being so open, that is, Alexis, you are doing a brave thing today, sharing with the audience. And by the way, if you want to watch the video that Alexis referenced, Charles Harris on YouTube, search Charles Harris, A Trader's Journey, and you will find it, and you will not regret it.
So good.
Yeah. So good. So let's talk about something that I'm sure a lot of other traders have been in, and that is ARKK, the ARK ETF. And this had a phenomenal move in 2020, but it's round tripped basically. I mean, up big. This is the hard thing. When it goes up, it can go up big, like this week, up almost 19%, right? But a huge downtrend. So walk us through how you handled this trade.
Yeah, and I'll just say, this was back when we had the Investing with IBD podcast. We had Kathy Wood on, and I think hearing her talk about everything, it made me so excited. And you saw the run that this had. And I think I got into this probably in mid-June, when it had kind of that pullback to the 120 area. And, bought in there, and then it kind of just did a little bit. And then, it finally broke down, and I didn't want to believe that this wouldn't come back, and you think about, reading the market, and things had definitely shifted by then. And in my mind, I was like, oh no, I just got into this, I don't want to have to get out. And I definitely held it for way too long. And then at that point, it broke below the 10-week. And then I was like, well, I should have gotten out earlier. I guess I'm just going to be long-term in this now and wait for it to come back. And, it did try to come back up there, earlier this year in March or April. So, and then it just fell off again. And I think that's when I finally got out, was in April, because as I was watching more at IBD Live and learning more throughout this, it was like, okay, great. I've already taken a big loss on this. Am I just going to keep writing this down to nothing just because I'm being stubborn about admitting that I screwed up? So yeah, that was definitely one where I should have just gotten out immediately when that happened. And definitely, the market conditions had turned. Obviously, tech stocks were not in favor. And again, you can read about all of this and you can listen to everyone talk about it. But I think until you actually go through it, you understand how difficult it is to actually execute that game plan.
Yeah, definitely. And something like this reminds me of what Mike Webster said during the middle of the COVID crash. And that was swift, it was ugly, and it caught many investors by surprise who didn't have the market timing or loss cutting skills previous to that. And people were asking, hey, I'm down 20 to 30% or whatever it was on a stock. What do I do now if the market is about to turn? And he said, you know what? It might. The market might turn here, but you still have, it could also get a lot worse. So you just have to cut your loss, have to take your lumps, learn for the next time. And that ultimately is going to save you so much pain in the future. And I think that's what was great about what we were saying over the last number of months is, a lot of people were saying IBD is being too cautious because that buy the dip mentality was still just so ingrained. And maybe it is still ingrained.
I mean, I still see, the Reddit boards and people tweeting about like AMC and HODL. And it's just, after like going through this, it's like, oh yeah, like it's so much harder to come back from a 50% loss than if you just cut and then, let it prove to you, let the market, let the stock prove to you that you should be buying back into it. And I think that's been really interesting to observe.
Yeah, it's never fun to sell and you get shaken out. It's happened to me quite a bit. It's very frustrating and annoying, but then you don't want to chase it at that point. So something that's been helpful to me is buying at a proper buy point and making sure that a stock isn't too far extended above the 10-week line. But not only that, is where has it been previously in relation to that 10-week line. It's not enough just for it to get above it and be right above it. Ideally it's good to buy within maybe 5% of the 10-week line, but how did it get there? And so looking at all of that context, making sure you're not buying too extended can help prevent you from getting shaken out. And if you buy at the right time, it'll make selling at the right time that much easier.
And I think this is where that patience comes in. And, it's something that Jim Ropel talked about on IBD Live today, because, at that point, I felt like, I was really, really excited about Art K. I had friends buying it. It was just getting so much chatter, and it had been such a big winner. And I was just so eager to get into the market and start doing this. And so when it hit that 10-week line and kind of bounced up, I was like, that's it. That's the time to get in. Like, in my mind, it made sense.
It could have worked. It could have worked, right?
It made sense. But at that time, like, that was near the top, really. And, maybe you should have just waited a little bit more. But, that's what I'm learning.
Yeah. So you have to balance having that patience, but also precision, and don't enter a trade, as a position trade, and then you're down 20% or something like you said, and then convince yourself you're a long-term investor.
Right. And at that point, I should have realized too, like, if all my friends are talking about this, then
that's the signal to
not the one to buy. But.
Yeah, exactly. So something similar happened with you, and we'll leave this as the last example. And GBTC, the loose proxy for Bitcoin, this a Grayscale Bitcoin trust.
Right. And I think I pretty much got into Bitcoin probably around the same time, like end of July. I had been waiting for it to kind of come down a little bit. And again, I think I probably bought at a good time, because at one point I had like a 50% gain, and I probably should have sold a little bit. But I feel like cryptocurrency, and I know there's a lot of debate, but I do think that there are some useful aspects of it that are going to be worth investing in. And in my mind, and again, like, I'm investing money that I'm okay with losing. I think that should be an important caveat. But
for beginners, that's a great point. Don't risk or bet more than you're.
I mean, I knew people that were trying to talk their parents into like taking another mortgage out and to like put it all in, and that probably not what you should be doing. But I really, I do see the value of it long term. And in my mind, I was like, I'm just gonna hold, like, this is just something I'm gonna sit on and hold. It's gonna go up. hopefully, see, again, I'm assuming that it's going to go up. And then of course, the last couple months, at one point I was up 50% on it. And then of course, the quote unquote crypto winter has hit. And, I just got out of it probably a few weeks, like a month or so ago. And it just seems like,
you got out high, much higher than it is right now. So that's good.
I think I like got out towards the tail end of that. But yeah, it was just like, okay, like I've still held on too long, but I was trying to learn from the last one of like, okay, am I going to just ride this all the way down again? Why do that to myself? And I think that's such the beauty of O'Neill's system is lock those profits in. Why ride the down wave? Like save yourself that torture and just, buy into strength and, learning. I think that the other thing is to like really making sure like when I buy something that I also like, I am now writing down, like, this is when you're getting out. I think it's really concrete because it's easy to just buy something and, forget. We're all busy. We all have things to do. So
exactly. Yeah. Or rationalize, oh, well, what's holding it a little bit longer?
I'm a long-term investor now.
Yeah. To rationalize all of those things. And yeah, it's something that I've seen on Twitter that I thought was really useful, because we talk a lot about rules and, how you shouldn't let your emotions get in the way. And I think that definitely makes sense to an extent. You have to have rules, but I feel like there's no way that you can get rid of your emotions completely with any of this. I think it's more about recognizing your emotions, recognizing when you do have that fear, when you do have that greed. And then that, I feel like that can help you know what your personality is as a trader, know what type of setups you should take, what your ideal, time horizon is. There's such a difference between how, I feel like two ends of the spectrum. Brian Shannon trades, he's super quick, sometimes day trading and swing trading. And then like a Kathy Donnelly, she's going for the big move, using the 40-week line as her final sell signal, or letting her max profit come down by 50%. So those are two opposite ends of the spectrum. So you have to know what's right for you and your personality, and to be able to manage your emotions.
No, exactly. And I kind of think of it like, when you have writer's block and you're like, oh no, like I have writer's block. And I think just reframing that of, oh, what, that's part of the process. It's, because yes, I do think it would be unrealistic to not recognize that emotion does play into this. And I think just, again, embracing that part and just understanding like, okay, like this is happening now. I still have my game plan. I still know what I'm going to do. Like I'm acknowledging that this is there, but we're not going to like be afraid of it or be like, oh crap, here we go. We're still sticking to that game plan.
Exactly. I love it. Well, this was such a fun conversation, and I hope that yeah, it was useful. It's always great to talk it out. Sometimes whether it's on IBD Live with our guests and myself, or these conversations, it almost feels like a therapy session sometimes, or a coaching session, a two-way coaching session, because I feel like there's a lot that we can all learn from each other.
Well, so great. And I'm so happy to join you today. This is so much fun.
It was awesome. Thank you so much again, Lexi. And thank you all for tuning in. Coming up next week on Stock Tales, we have Richard Moglen of Trader Lion coming in to join me in the hot seat. He's usually the one asking the questions. So he was recently on our podcast. We're going to give him two opportunities to be roles reversed on the other side of the conversation. So I'm really looking forward to that, and I hope everyone tunes into that next Friday. Hope you have a great weekend, everyone. See you back here next week.